The rain slapped against the windows of the club in sharp, impatient bursts as I watched him from across the bar. He stood with his back against the wall, one hand curled around a sweating glass of whiskey, the other tucked into the pocket of his leather jacket. His eyes, dark, calculating, scanned the crowd with disinterest until they landed on me. Then everything changed. A slow smirk curled at the edge of his mouth, the kind that promised trouble, the kind that made my stomach tighten in anticipation. I didn't look away. He pushed off the wall and cut through the crowd like a blade, his movements smooth, deliberate. The bass of the music vibrated through the floor, but all I could hear was the sudden rush of blood in my ears as he stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the leather of his jacket, the spice of his cologne, the faint burn of whiskey on his breath. "You're staring," he said, his voice rough, edged with amusement. I took a sip of my drink, never breaking eye contact. "You're worth staring at." He laughed, low and deep, and something dangerous flickered in his gaze. "One drink," he said. "Then we see where the night takes us." I should have known better. But when his fingers brushed mine as he took the glass from my hand, when his knee pressed between mine under the bar, when he leaned in and murmured, "You taste like trouble," against my ear, I was already gone. The Uber ride was a blur of heated touches and stolen kisses, his mouth hot and insistent against mine, his hands mapping my body like he was memorizing every inch. The driver didn't say a word, but I caught his glance in the rearview mirror, the slight shake of his head as if he knew exactly how this would end. My apartment door barely shut behind us before he had me pinned against it, his body pressed flush against mine, his breath ragged against my throat. "Just one night," he growled, teeth scraping over my pulse point. I believed him. I was a fool, because when morning came, sunlight spilling across the tangled sheets, his arm slung possessively over my waist, his lips brushing my shoulder in a way that felt too soft, too intimate, I knew this wasn't over. And when he showed up at my gym a week later, leaning against the squat rack with that same infuriating smirk, watching me with those dark, knowing eyes, I didn't walk away. I never could. Not when his hands left bruises on my hips. Not when his mouth silenced my moans against the locker room wall. Not when he whispered, "Still just one night," even as he kissed me like he was starving. Liar. Because now, months later, his jacket hangs in my closet. His toothbrush sits in my bathroom. His name is scrawled across my 2025 vision board like a promise I never meant to make. And when he catches me looking at it, he doesn't laugh. He pulls me close, his lips brushing mine in a kiss that feels like a beginning. "Guess one night wasn't enough," he murmurs. I kiss him back, hard, because he's right. It never was. The first time he stayed over without sex, I knew I was in trouble. He showed up at 2 a.m. soaked from the storm, hair plastered to his forehead, holding 2 dripping wet coffees like some romantic cliché. "Couldn't sleep," he muttered, shoving one into my hands. The cup was cold. He'd been walking for hours. We sat on my fire escape watching lightning split the sky, shoulders touching, not speaking. When his pinky finger hooked around mine, tentative, questioning, my chest ached like I'd been struck. That's when I realized. This man who banged like a god and laughed like sin had hands that trembled when he thought I wasn't looking. 3 months in, I caught him staring at my vision board one hungover Sunday, tracing the edges of his photo with an unreadable expression. "You kept me," he accused softly. "You stayed," I countered. The way his mouth crashed into mine tasted like surrender. But then weeks after I thought we were living perfect lives, his ex showed up at the bar where we first met. Pretty, blonde, smelled like expensive perfume and regret. I turned to leave. His hand caught my belt loop, yanking me back against his chest. "Where the hell do you think you're going?" His breath was hot on my neck, fingers digging in possessively. The blonde's smile died. So did my doubt. He kissed me in front of his ex, almost making love to me on the spot. I felt wild, I wanted not, I wanted intense. We rush into the car and drive home quickly. Somewhere in the city, rain starts falling. Somewhere in my chest, something fragile takes root. Just one night, he murmurs absently, tracing blueprints across my ribs with calloused fingers. I laugh into his shoulder. Liar. He pulls my clothes off, leads me to the bed, and begins to devour every part of me one after the other. Yeah, I wanted crazy, and I did get crazy that night. The night swallowed us whole. It wasn't love making this time, it was possession. An exorcism of every whispered denial, every moment I'd pretended I didn't want him like this. His mouth was fire and teeth and desperation, dragging moans from my throat like confessions. Every kiss was a punishment, and every thrust, a promise he'd never let me go again. Mine, he growled, over and over, lips brushing the shell of my ear, and I let him claim me because I was already his. By the time we were breathless, tangled in sweat-drenched sheets, skin flushed and bitten and broken open by the honesty of it, I couldn't even remember who I'd been before him. Before us, he rolled off me, chest heaving, one arm thrown over his eyes like he couldn't bear how real this felt. I turned to him, dragging my nails down the trail of his stomach. Still pretending this is just casual? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. In the morning, I woke up to the smell of burnt toast and his voice singing terribly off-key from the kitchen. My heart squeezed painfully at the domesticity of it all. This beautiful, reckless man walking around shirtless in my apartment like he belonged there, like he always had. He brought me coffee in a chipped mug and crawled into bed with me, kissing the curve of my shoulder with uncharacteristic gentleness. I hate that you make me soft, he mumbled, burying his face in my neck. You're only soft when you think no one's watching. His hand slid beneath the sheets. Then stop looking. Not a chance. He grinned against my skin, then said nothing else for a while, just held me, like maybe the idea of letting go was too terrifying to risk. For months later, we fought for the first time, not over jealousy or commitment or one of our usual fears, but because I'd gotten into a minor car accident and didn't call him. He stormed into my apartment like a hurricane, jaw tight, eyes wild, fists clenched like he was holding back more than words. You didn't tell me, he snapped. I was fine. I didn't know that, he barked, slamming the door behind him. I didn't know if I'd lost you. I stared at him, and then it hit me. He wasn't angry. He was terrified. He paced the room like a caged animal until I crossed to him, grabbing the front of his shirt. You didn't lose me, I whispered. You're stuck with me. That broke something in him. He crushed me to his chest, arms iron tight. Don't ever scare me like that again. Don't ever act like you don't care. I do care, he said, voice low, wrecked. Too banjing much. Then he kissed me like he meant it, like he always meant it. 6 months in, he brought me to meet his mother. I nearly choked when she pulled me into a hug and whispered, "So you're the one who finally made him stop running." And when he wrapped his arm around my waist in front of her, smiling down at me like I held his whole future in my hands, I realized, so had I. 1 year later, we went back to the bar where it all started. Same table, same rain, same leather jacket. Only this time, when he leaned across the table, he didn't offer one night. He pulled out a small box, opened it slowly, and said, voice rough with nerves, "How about forever?" I didn't cry. Not right away. I laughed first, because this was the man who once promised just one night, with whiskey on his breath and chaos in his smile. Now, he was on one knee, and everything in me whispered yes before I even said it out loud. Forever, I breathed, grabbing his collar, dragging him up to kiss me. Liar, I whispered against his mouth. He grinned. Always.